My name is Arabella. I am 33 years old, and I live in a small town with my husband Robert and our 7-year-old daughter, Cecilia. We have been married for 10 years. To most people, we look like an ordinary, happy family, and for a long time, that was exactly what we were. Our mornings were filled with the smell of coffee and warm toast. Robert always read the newspaper while I packed Cecilia's lunch for school. She would run around the kitchen, laughing, her hair tied in a messy ponytail, asking her father endless questions about the world. In the evenings, we had our own small traditions. After dinner, Robert helped Cecilia with her homework, and I read her favorite bedtime story. Then, when she finally fell asleep, we would sit on the couch, drink tea, and talk about our day. We didn't have a luxurious life, but we had peace, laughter, and love, and that was enough for me. Robert was a kind man, patient and hardworking. He loved our daughter deeply and cared for me in quiet, consistent ways. I trusted him completely. I believed he was the kind of man who would never hurt the people he loved. Back then, I thought our family was strong, unshakable. I never imagined that one secret, one moment of weakness, could change everything. I met Robert when I was in college. At that time, I was working part-time and studying hard to finish my degree. Life was not easy, but Robert made it brighter. He was kind and patient, the kind of person who noticed when someone needed help. I still remember the day he waited with me under the rain because my bus was late. He gave me his umbrella and said, "You shouldn't face the storm alone." That simple moment stayed with me. Over time, we became close, sharing coffee between classes, helping each other study, and talking about dreams that felt too big for our small lives. When we married, I felt sure I had chosen the right man. Years later, when Cecilia was born, Robert became the kind of father every child deserves. He woke up early to make breakfast, learned to change diapers, and sang lullabies even when he couldn't carry a tune. Our home was full of laughter, bedtime stories, and small surprises. Every evening, we would watch Cecilia sleep, whispering about how lucky we were. Our life was simple, yet it felt full. I thanked God every day for my little family, for the peace and love that surrounded us. I believed nothing could take it away. But I was wrong. Sometimes, what feels safe and perfect can change in a single night. It was a Friday night when everything began to change. Robert told me that his best friend was having a birthday party, and that he would come home late. I remember standing by the kitchen counter, feeling a little tired from a mild fever, and saying, "That's fine. Have fun." I trusted him completely. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his jacket, and left. I spent the evening wrapped in a blanket, drinking tea, thinking how lucky I was to have a husband who worked hard but still cared about his friends. The next morning, the house was quiet. Robert sat at the kitchen table with his hands around a cup of coffee, staring at nothing. His face looked pale, his eyes distant. I asked softly, "Are you feeling all right?" He didn't answer right away. Then, after a long silence, he said, "Arabella, I need to tell you something." I felt my stomach tighten. His voice trembled. Last night, I kissed someone. I was drunk. It was my ex-girlfriend. She came close, and I didn't stop her. It just happened. For a few seconds, I couldn't speak. The world around me froze. I heard my heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then came the pain, sharp and deep, like a knife twisting inside my chest. What do you mean it just happened? I shouted. Do you think mistakes like that just happen? My voice broke, but the anger inside me was stronger than my tears. Robert stood up, trying to come closer, but I pushed him away. Don't touch me, I said. You broke my trust. Love is not enough without honesty. I ran to our bedroom, grabbed his suitcase, and threw it onto the floor. I filled it with his things, clothes, shoes, his watch, all while crying so hard that my hands shook. He tried to speak, but I opened the door and said, "Leave. This house is mine. Go away." He hesitated, eyes full of regret, then finally stepped out. When the door closed behind him, the silence that followed was unbearable. That night, I sat alone in the living room, holding our wedding photo. In it, we were smiling, full of promises, unaware of what was to come. I looked at that woman in the picture, happy, innocent, and trusting, and I felt like I no longer knew her. The tears came again, and as they fell, I whispered to myself, maybe love is easy, but trust is fragile. Days passed, then weeks, and my phone never stopped ringing. Every day there were messages, calls, and voicemails from Robert. His words were always the same. I am sorry. I love you. It was a mistake. Please forgive me. At first, I deleted them without reading. Then I stopped checking my phone altogether. I thought that silence would protect me, but it only made the emptiness inside grow louder. The nights were the worst. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone who once held my heart so gently could break it so easily. One afternoon, Robert's mother called. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Arabella," she said, "please don't be angry. All men make mistakes. My husband did too, but I stayed. We fixed things." I listened quietly before answering. "I don't want to live with a man who kisses another woman." There was a pause. She sighed and said, "Think about your daughter. Cecilia needs her father." I swallowed hard. "She can still have her father," I said. "But I cannot have him as my husband." When the call ended, I felt both lighter and lonelier. The loneliness crept into everything I did. I made breakfast for Cecilia, walked her to school, cleaned the house, but nothing felt real. I missed Robert's voice, his laughter, the sound of him reading bedtime stories. But the memory of his confession hurt more than his absence. I loved him, but love had lost its shape. It no longer felt safe. One night, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, Robert stood there holding a bouquet of white lilies, his eyes red from crying. "Please," he whispered, "just listen." It was one stupid kiss. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. His voice trembled. You know I love you. I looked at him, this man I once thought I knew completely, and for a long time, I said nothing. Then I took a slow breath and replied softly, a mistake is when you drop a glass, not when you break a heart. He began to cry, but I didn't move closer. Something inside me broke again, but not for him. I cried too, not because I wanted him back, but because I finally saw what was lost. It wasn't just love. It was trust. And trust, once broken, never returns the same. That night, after he left, I sat by the window and realized that sometimes, the deepest pain comes not from betrayal itself, but from learning that the person you trusted the most is capable of causing it. Time has a quiet way of healing what words cannot. Months passed, and life began to find its rhythm again. Cecilia and I settled into our own little world. We cooked together, read books, and went for walks in the park. The house felt different without Robert, emptier, but also peaceful. I no longer cried every night. The pain softened, turning into something I could live with. Robert continued to visit every weekend. He always brought small gifts for Cecilia, not expensive ones, but things that showed thought, her favorite book, a drawing set, a small stuffed bear. He never tried to force his way back into my life. Instead, he showed up quietly, consistently. I noticed that he no longer drank. He no longer made excuses. He listened more than he spoke. Over time, I began to see the man he used to be, patient, humble, and kind. A year later, one sunny afternoon, I watched from the kitchen window as Robert and Cecilia played in the garden. She laughed as he chased her around the trees, her voice filled with joy. For the first time in a long while, I smiled without pain. Something inside me shifted. True change, I realized, doesn't come from promises or apologies. It comes from time, effort, and the courage to be better. Later that day, as the sun began to set, Robert walked over and said quietly, "I miss our family." His voice was gentle, steady, and honest. I looked at him for a long moment before replying, "I forgive you. Not because I am weak, but because I am strong." He reached for my hands, his eyes wet with tears. We stood there silently, both knowing that what we once had was gone, but something new was beginning, not a return to the past, but a chance to rebuild, this time with truth and understanding. That evening, I sat on the porch, watching the last light of the day fade across the garden. Robert and Cecilia were playing with her kite, their laughter floating through the warm air. For a long moment, I simply watched them, feeling a quiet peace settle over me. A year ago, this same sight would have brought me pain, a reminder of what we had lost. Now it brought something different, gratitude. Not for the mistake, but for the strength that grew from it. I realized then that love is not about perfection. It is not about never falling, but about learning how to stand again together. He didn't just make a mistake, he reminded me that trust is fragile, but forgiveness is powerful. Real love doesn't erase what happened, it accepts it, learns from it, and chooses again, carefully, honestly, and with open eyes. As I sat there, I thought about all the people who believe that a perfect marriage means never getting hurt. But perfection doesn't build love. Humility does. Understanding does. The courage to stay and grow after pain does. Our story is no fairy tale. It is a journey, one of breaking, learning, and rebuilding. And as the sun disappeared behind the trees, I smiled softly to myself, knowing that love, when chosen again with truth, can still find its way home. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep learning English through emotional life lessons, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more inspiring English listening stories.